David Morgan with you at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, January 2018. Bart Jaworski on my right, and you have a Group 11 is the name of your company, and it is an advanced stage zinc project in Ireland.
Yeah.
And I just came back from Dublin. I have a great friend there that runs Goldcore. I loved it. I wish I could have stayed longer.
Yeah, good place.
But I planned a return trip. So tell us about Group 11 and how you got started on zinc.
Well, it's a project that we started 3 years ago with John Berry and David Furlong, who are ex-Rathdowney, which is another European zinc exploration company and development company. And we basically saw an opportunity. We were in zinc country. I was living there at the time. I continue to live there. And the three of us came together 3 years ago and saw that we believe in zinc. We thought the outlook for zinc is very good. Here we are in zinc country. Let's see if we can pick up some choice ground. And that's exactly what we proceeded to do. Shortly thereafter, MAG Silver came on and backed us about a year later, as we were sort of halfway through our research effort and we started picking up really interesting ground, Tralee, PG West. And then basically for the remainder of the last year, I guess, of our 3-year segment, we spent the last 12 months basically negotiating the acquisition of Ballinalack and Stonepark from Teck with concurrent financings along the way. And now we're basically fully formed. We have the largest land position in the country. We have 99 licenses, 3,200 square kilometers, a lot of ground. But it's very good ground. We have the second largest historic occurrence of zinc undeveloped in the country, which is 7.7 million tons at 7.3%. We have some very, very exciting exploration upside underneath that deposit in the pale beds, which just happened to host the 5th largest zinc deposit in the world, 50 kilometers over, in the same lithology. Never been tested directly underneath the deposit. And we're also situated in another property called Stonepark, directly adjacent to Glencore's Palace Green deposit, which is about 44 million tons at 8%. And it's one of the largest undeveloped zinc assets in the world. And we're looking forward to seeing what Glencore is doing on that property. And hopefully we'll see perhaps an updated resource estimate in their annual report later this year. So that's going to be quite interesting. But we have a lot of ground. We have very strong directors and officers of the company. We have very good.
Stop you there.
Yeah,
because that's one of our key things to look at, of course, is management. So
yeah.
I want to go through the management with this company, Group 11.
Yeah, so Dan McInnes, who some of your viewers might know, so he's a very well-respected guy, retired CEO of MAG Silver. He's currently a director of MAG Silver, and he's also a very seasoned geologist. He's got about 7 discoveries under his belt. And importantly, he spent about 5 years in Ireland with Noranda in the late 70s and early 80s. So he really does know the lay of the land. So that's our chairman, Dan McInnes, myself, the CEO. I'm a geologist and ex-mining analyst. I was at Raymond James here in Vancouver for 9 years. Okay. Then moved to Ireland for about 6 years ago now for family reasons, my wife being Irish, and ended up being a gold analyst and iron ore analyst at Davy Stockbrokers in Dublin, which is a lot of fun. And Alessandro Batelli, he's an accountant, he's a CFO of Lundin Gold. And lastly, Brendan Cahill, he's a lawyer and CEO of Exelon Resources. So that's the directors of the company.
Excellent. So let's move on to the financing. What kind of raises have you done? What's the treasury look like and the burn rate?
So we've just completed an IPO. Right before Christmas, we raised $5 million. And previous to that, we've raised about $7 million privately on a number of tranches. So we're 12 million, I guess, altogether raised. And we're sitting basically right now with a cash position of around $5 million. Obviously, with the Teck acquisitions, we paid cash for those. We own those outright, no clawbacks or anything like that. So nice, clean deals. And we're ready to basically start drilling. We have a 2-pronged approach. To basically go and test the high specificity targets that we do have, all the exciting drill targets that we have. But in a parallel track, we also have a regional rethink. And this is also a very exciting part of the story because with MAG Silver and our advisor, who I didn't mention yet, Peter McGaw, who's the godfather of silver exploration in Mexico. He's a CRD expert, great guy, obviously, so he's an advisor to us. And the interesting thing is that if you go in the southwest of Ireland, you start sort of looking a lot like Mexico in terms of the geology. Just on a very, very high level, you have a lot of carbonates intruded by a lot of volcanics. So you have intrusives and volcanics, so therefore the question that you have to ask is there potential for CRDs, so carbonate replacement type deposits that you see in Mexico, perhaps overprinting something that's more typical Irish or traditional Irish deposits, which are a slightly hotter form of Mississippi Valley type deposits, or MVTs. So those are the types of questions that we'll be trying to answer, and we'll be using seismics as well as the drill bit to answer those questions.
Any institutional support on the financing?
Yeah, we had quite a bit of institutions as well as retail. I'd say they're fairly balanced. So we do have some institutions on the list in terms of our shareholders right now. But the two strategic shareholders that we do have is obviously MAG Silver, who owns 15.8% of the company on a basic basis, and Teck, who owns 5.6% of the company as well.
Great. So what's the share volume like? What's your trading? Is it well known by the public? Is there a lot of turnover?
I'd say because we're such a fresh company, not a lot of people or investors know about us at this stage. But at the same time, we're getting some pretty decent volumes out there. On, I think it was December 22nd, we traded 1.8 million shares, for example. And the turnover has been sort of 100,000 shares a day. That was in December, a little bit lower coming out of New Year's, and it's starting to pick up now. So, I think it's pretty decent for where we're at right now. We are definitely starting to get a lot more known, and we'll be a lot more active going forward in terms of getting our name out there.
Shares outstanding, warrants?
Yeah, we've got 59.8 million shares outstanding, and then at around 17 million warrants outstanding, so roughly just shy of 80 million shares fully diluted.
Very good. So it looks like you got the management in place. You certainly got the financing. It sounds like you got a big land position with a lot of upside potential. Turnover's pretty good. Story's getting out there. So what's your milestones over the next couple of years?
Well, we're going to be focusing on Ballinalack and Stonepark first and foremost, followed by Silvermines and perhaps Tralee. But in that order. So first and foremost, we're going to be doing confirmatory and step-out drilling of the historic estimate. Then drilling the pale bed target underneath that historic estimate, which is really what I'm personally most excited about, because that could be a game changer for the property. And quite frankly, in terms of Irish geology, there is not typically a stacked type of system in Ireland. Silvermines is a bit of an example, but traditionally you only have zinc mineralization in one horizon. At Ballinalack you have two prospective horizons, so this would be a bit of a game changer in terms of Irish geology. And then we'll, concurrently with drilling at Ballinalack, we'll be drilling at Stonepark. And there is a discovery that was made there by Teck in 2007 and 2009 that we will be then going back to. There is resource definition potential there already as it stands without drilling a single drill hole more, but obviously we'll be doing more drilling ourselves, confirmatory and step out, and answering the big question at Stonepark, which is where's the big mineralizing structure? Because this is a brand new camp, relatively speaking. It was only really, people ignored that area for many, many years, decades in fact, up until 2002 when they found Palace Green. And then that was corroborated by Teck, who found Stonepark in 2007, 2009, and then all the geologists started paying attention a lot more. The problem was that had in the center of this area volcanics, and volcanics don't fit the typical Irish zinc deposit model. So anyway, all those things we'll be really working on, and then Silvermines will be drilling as well. Tralee, hopefully at least a drill hole on one of the key targets over there.
Bart, I look at the big picture, we look at the commodities around the world, and really we've seen that the commodity sector is actually starting up. Very few people know that. The ETF for commodities on the base metals made a 4-year high about 2 months ago. Very few analysts even recognize that. So having said that, I think China is not out of the picture. I think the commodity cycle is starting. I think, of course, precious metals will probably lead it. But nonetheless, do you have any partnerships going with this Group 11 project?
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned China because Ballinalack are one of our 2 flagship projects. We are in a joint venture where they own 40% with a Chinese zinc producer called Nonfemet, based in Shenzhen. And they are one of the largest zinc producers in the world and close to being, I believe, a top producer of zinc in China itself. So they're great partners to have. And in a way, it's a validation of that China story, perhaps. They appear to be a very good partner in terms of participation historically on the project before we came on. So we look very much forward to working with them.
Very good. Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Great. Well, we've been favorable to zinc for quite some time. We were the first to really see that there was going to be a shortage coming up because some of the huge mines were being depleted. And of course, the bank analysts picked it up after us, actually. But regardless of that, you've got a great project, it sounds like. Is there anything we haven't discussed that our viewers should know about Group 11?
I guess the overarching theme here is that Ireland is a very good jurisdiction politically. Maybe that's something we haven't really touched on. But if you read the Fraser Institute,
sure.
Based here in Vancouver, they obviously put out their annual mining survey, and Ireland surprisingly scores very well, exceptionally well, number 1 in fact, out of all 120 some odd jurisdictions, number 1 in terms of policy perception index. So the government is very supportive to getting investment in, and a lot of Canadian companies are starting to obviously come into Ireland. So not only the majors, but juniors like ourselves. So that's quite positive, and it's obviously a first world jurisdiction. The tenure system there is quite positive, quite favorable for juniors. You know, you have a 2-year window to spend your money, for example. That's a real plus, I think. And obviously the rocks are world class. So for zinc.
Okay. Bart, it's been a real pleasure. I wish you all the success with Group 11.
Thank you, David. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks for having me on.